Hi everybody, welcome to All American Tractor Works. Today I'm going to try to get the rest of this broken down and taken apart so we can move in the other direction, start putting this back together. So my plan today is get these brake pedals off, get the shifter handle out, open up the top, remove both of the axles, take the power takeoff out, get the rest of this broken down, and we can move forward on this. And like I said, I'm excited to start putting this back together. So let's get to work. So the first thing that I'm going to do today is remove these two brake pedals and get the brake covers off. There's one over here, as you can see, there's one here. We'll get these pedals off, get the covers off the brakes, get those taken off, and we'll start to get into more of it. So let's get going on that. All right, let's start by pulling the springs off that keep tension on the brakes right here. It's just a little 9/16 bracket that's here. I'm just going to loosen that. And that way I don't have to detach any springs. I don't think it'll go flying, but that way I don't have to wrestle with any springs. I'm going to be careful though. Whoa, because there it goes. So there we go. So those are off. We'll pull our springs out. Let me get that one. Come on, baby. There we go. And that gets that out of there. Now I'm going to take and remove the adjustment down here. Hopefully I can get that to move. I'm going to go get a lubricant for that. I am just going to spray a little bit of lubricant on this. It was starting to move kind of hard. I don't want to snap anything if I can all avoid it. So we'll spray some of that in there. And yep, it's already coming easier. I'm going to hit it with a little bit more. Yeah, makes all the difference in the world. Super long, I know it. We're almost there. That's definitely a long bolt. Here she comes. And we are free. So now I got to take and pull these pedals off. Looks like there's a cotter pin out here. Let's see if we can take and collapse that. So I have a lot of people ask me, how long have you been working on tractors? How long has this been a passion of yours? And it's kind of interesting because it really goes back to almost day one. I had a grandfather that had a small farm, and I grew up spending a lot of time there, very much admiring things there. That was of course, my farming exposure. But probably even more so was my dad. My dad, as a part-time job just at the house, used to repair lawnmowers. And from a very young age, I worked with him doing that. And I started off just running and getting him the tools that he needed. Because a lot of what he did, he worked in the basement. He didn't have a shop. Maybe we worked in the garage, but it was nothing fancy. And I started off running and grabbing the tools that he needed, so I learned the tools that way, which was nice. And then as I got older, I helped him out more, got more involved, to the point where he became the guy going and getting the tools, and I was the guy doing the fixing. So it was nice. It was a good father-son bonding time. I was able to learn a whole lot from him. And we definitely, years later, were able to reminisce about a lot of funny stories that we had, because, if you know anything about working on machinery like this, you definitely have funny stories about many, many things, almost killing yourself and who knows what else, the stuff you run into on these things. So anyway, yeah, I grew up with that. My dad was the big influence. Probably another big part of it, and it's funny because that has a lot to do with why I'm restoring this tractor. Where I grew up, across the street from me, they grew tobacco. And, this whole thing's going to come out. Let's pull this right through. And I grew up watching, funny how it is, International Tractors across the street. I'm sure there were Super H's over there. I know there were H's and M's. But I used to sit in the front window at the house, and I could see right across the street to where the field was and where those tractors would work. And it was like built-in daycare for my mom. She did stay at home, but all she had to do was let me sit in the front window, and I was entertained all day, because I literally would sit in that doorway of the house or in the window, and I would watch those tractors all day long until they were done. So, easy on my mom to watch me. Fun for me because I got to watch what they were doing the whole day long. And like I said, they were running M's, H's, I'm sure Super H's. I think even at one time, and this came later in the years, they did move up to bigger tractors. But I even think they might have had a Farmall 300 out there at one point in time that I was able to watch. So, entertaining for me. So anyway, I digress. The brakes and the shaft are out that they ride on. Now we got to take the brakes apart here. We'll get into those. I'm not sure how friendly these will all be. Like I said, this tractor, I don't really know much on the history of it. Other than it sat for quite a while with the head off. Thus the reason that the engine's going to need a bunch of work, but we'll take and put new sleeves and pistons in that. So initially I was not going to take this and break this whole thing down. My initial plan was kind of to get it to this point, clean this up, and just leave things as it were, because I'm not aware of a lot of leaks on this, but that's probably my biggest downfall, is saying that I'm not aware of it, because, again, I don't know the history of the tractor. I don't know what it's been through. I can tell you that when I drained this transmission, that I got oil out of it, the consistency of like tar, which is not what we want, of course. So, after thinking about it extensively, I decided I'm here, I'm this close, I don't know the history of the tractor, I'm just going to take and break it all the way down. It's not that much more work. It'll probably be worth it in the end. I can put all new seals and gaskets in it, and then I don't have to worry about it. So that's what we're going to do. That's our plan here. So let's see if I can get this out. I'm super excited to be at this point. I really can't wait to start putting this back together. To me, that's the most fun part. I do enjoy taking it apart, because you do learn a lot of history of the tractor. You learn a lot about what it's been through. See a lot of the quote-unquote scars of the life that it had and what it might have gone through. And I think that's what's interesting about these tractors. I know a lot of guys out there, they really paint them up. They make them just look absolutely beautiful. They straighten out all the sheet metal. And I don't blame them. I don't want a bunch of dented sheet metal. But I'm not really good at sheet metal so much. So I don't hold myself to the perfection standard. I will kind of clean it up. But maybe I'll leave some marks left in it that we'll still kind of talk about and show the history of what that tractor might have been through and what it gone, the life that it lived. And to me, it gives it character. So, no knock on you guys out there that do all that nice sheet metal work. I'm just jealous that I can't do it. Some of you guys do some pretty incredible stuff. So this is starting to loosen up here as I ramble on. So going back, to me growing up in my exposure to tractors, and like I said, I spent most of my time working with my dad just fixing little lawnmowers and stuff, not even big farm tractors. But I loved them from the start. And I spent a lot of time learning about them just as a kid. I was familiar with all the local stuff. One of my favorite things to do was to go with my dad when he had to get parts, and he had to go to the local lawnmower shop, and they would have the sales brochures in them. And I used to pick sales brochures out like I was buying a machine. I think the guy that owned the company thought it was hilarious because I would literally leave with a stack of sales brochures. But my dad did a lot of business with them, and the guy that owned the business knew that I loved it, so they let me take them. And I used to take them home. I'd put them in a binder, and I'd just sit there and I'd look through them and just study all the machines. And kind of crazy for a young kid what I was doing. All my other friends are playing video games and stuff like that. I'm studying stuff about tractors. Who would have thought? So, as I grew up more and more, I think probably about the time I got to, I'm in about middle school. My dad and I, we did our first, I'm glad I opened that up. Look at that, all the stuff that's in there. Always surprises. Just years of being outside, being on the farm, and the stuff that gets picked up in there. Looks like it's just rust and dirt. But again, we'll go through it, we'll clean it out, we'll make sure it's all in good shape, it's good to go. Little nests and things in here of insects that have made their way in. But that gets this side off. Whoops. I'll move around and I'll get the one off the other side. All right, we're on the other side. We'll just start working on getting this one taken off. I had originally talked about when I was growing up working on tractors and how I got to this point. And I had mentioned that probably when I was in about middle school, my dad brought home a walk-behind Gravely Model L. I want to say it was probably a late 50s, early 60s. The crazy thing is I still have it here in the shop. It's sitting over on the other side of the wall of all these tractors, and we'll take a look at it in one of my episodes coming up. We'll talk about it more. But he and I we broke that right down to the last nut and bolt, and that was the first tractor that he and I restored completely together. We went on to do others. I never did a farm tractor until I was off on my own. My dad did one after I'd left. I'd gone to school. My dad took my grandfather's Model H John Deere and he restored it. Another one that we'll look at and talk about in an upcoming episode. So you'll get to see that as well, and we'll talk about that. And I grew up with that tractor. That was the farm tractor icon for me growing up, going to my grandfather's farm and sitting on my dad's or my grandpa's lap, plowing in the spring. Just all part of what got me where I am here today. So, yeah. something I've been doing my whole life. I've never had a shop like I have now. It took years to get where I am there. So if you don't have a shop that you're working in at this time, don't be let down by it. Yeah, it's nice because it's heated in here because it is cold outside. But it took me a while to get to this. I mean, I spent years just working in a garage with no heat. The light wasn't great, but I loved what I was doing. I made it work, and I had a good time doing it. But now, yeah, I'm kind of spoiled. I have a nice big shop to work in that's heated and air conditioned. I got good lighting, so it does make it a little conducive to making it easier. But if you're not there, don't fret. Just keep in mind the fun that you're having. Keep the final product in mind. It's really rewarding to get one of these machines all put back together, cleaned up and working, repainted, new decals, and basically have it look like it did the day that it rolled off the showroom floor, right out of the factory. Because it's really rewarding. I notice a lot more people are starting to do it. I mean, it's kind of been popular for a while. I feel like lately it's really starting to take off again. I felt like it had died down for a little bit, but I just feel like more and more people are doing it. Basically because you can't get machines like this anymore. This one not so bad. You can see how it's worn in there, but again, full of dirt and stuff from just over the years. Couldn't tell you when the last time was that this was probably taken apart. It's been a long, long time. But it's good we are getting it down to this point. This finishes all the brakes on it, so those are off. What we'll do next is we're going to move around to the front of the tractor here. We'll start pulling these bearing holders off. After we get that done, we're going to whip around the other side. We'll get the power takeoff taken off. Then we'll pull the top plate out. We can gut it for the most part. And then I think I'll pull the axles off too. We're just going to get it down to the transmission box. It weighs a ton in itself. So getting all this stuff out of it's going to help a lot to make it a little bit lighter. I thank my lucky stars every day that I have my engine lift here in the shop. They definitely save your back. If you have one, use it. If you don't have one, you can get one. I highly recommend you doing it. It will save your back. Take it from somebody who's lifted too many heavy things in his lifetime and has destroyed his back because of it. I can't lift stuff anymore now, so I have to be really careful about it. So let me get this put over with the parts. We'll come back. We'll start working on this. All right, we're going to take and pull this off. It's the main drive off the engine for the transmission. And I'm going to grab this in my channel locks because, as we know, that wants to turn, which is good because that means the transmission isn't froze up. And then, there we go. That came off nice and easy. I like when that happens that way. So I have never taken and rebuilt an International before. This is my first International. I've done a couple John Deeres, Fords. I don't know if this is going to come off. It's keyed, so I'll probably need to put a puller on that to take that off. So I will get that set up and we'll get that pulled off. All right, so because this is keyed, this piece here, I just put a hub puller on it. I'm hoping it'll pull it off nice and easy. I'm a little weary about having all the stress out on these outer ears, but I'm hoping that I can get this off fairly easily. I'm going to switch out to a breaker bar. Hopefully this cooperates. Let's see what it's going to do. I got a sacrificial nut in there that I'm using too. And it looks like it's coming off real easy. That's good. I did put some lubricant on the end. I don't want to bung up the threads that are in there. So yeah, it's pulling out nice and easy, as you can see. I know probably not everybody has a hub puller like this. You can make one. Like I said, this came off pretty easy, so you don't need anything that's really heavy duty. I know for years my dad had no pullers whatsoever. He beat a lot of things off, which probably wasn't the best thing in the world to do, but that's all he had. So if you got to make what you have work, then that's what you do. So that hub's off. Next we'll pull these 3 bolts. That's just going to be the bearing cap. It's going to be the bearing in there. Then we'll pull this whole plate off, and that'll allow that whole piece to come off. That'll free up the shaft in there. So we're getting close to having this guy apart. That's all for today. If you liked what you saw, please hit like and subscribe. We're going to have more episodes coming until we get this whole tractor put back together. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time on All American Tractor Works.